My name's Siegrid Siderius, and I'm a lighting designer, and I've been a lighting designer for a long time now, over 20 years. I'm working in Amsterdam, in Holland, and I work for an engineering firm Arab. So I'm a lighting designer at Arab. And I was like, yeah, well, I really like interiors and I like architecture, and then I thought, well, I want to do interior design. Went to London and I did interior design, and part of the course there was also a lighting assignment, and I designed a gallery with the lighting, and the lighting was this like crazy curvy track with little spotlights. And I remember doing this whole schedule on how many lights there were and the wattages and everything, and looking back, it's like it was good fun. So that was my first encounter with it. And then I got a job doing interior design, and then they employed a lighting designer. It was Sally Story. She came around and she did the lighting design. I was like, oh, cool, you know, this is really interesting. And I was like, oh, maybe I want to do that too. And I applied for a job, and I got a job with them. And doing that, and I was living in London, and then wanted to move. And then I moved to Holland with my boyfriend then, and I got a job being a rep for Urco Lighting. And then I worked for an architect. And why did I move back to architecture? Was because I felt limited by just doing lighting, because lighting is not just about fixtures. Lighting is about space and about colours and materials. And if you have no say in the materials and the colours, etc., you can't really do a good lighting design. And working for Urco is very much about the products, which are great products, but I just felt I didn't have enough control over the end effect. So I went to work for an architect. I was at this architect's firm, and I was doing all this other stuff other than lighting. And I was like, I don't want to be doing all this other stuff. I just want to be doing lighting, but with more control. And at the end, I ended up at Arab, and have actually been able to do that here more, because you work very closely with architects about space. It's very much architectural lighting design, so it's also like about integrating the lighting in the building. And I think that's where I find it's interesting. So that's the sort of how I got into lighting design. Before I started working for Arab, I didn't know you could design daylight. I was always like, I was just an electrical lighting designer. And then in Arab, suddenly it's like, there's all these people that are designing the daylight. And I've always found that really interesting, really intriguing, and something that I'm really passionate about. At the same time, it's not something that we get asked to do in Holland. Again, it's sort of like that thing where the market is just not really ready for that kind of thing. So that's something I'm really interested in. And but what I do mainly is just architectural lighting, so electric, artificial light, whatever you want to call it. The specific project I like to work on, I think it's projects where I'm talking to the end client and the user. So there's a connection with what they want. I mean, that's sort of sometimes a thing you get where it's a big project, and you have to specify lights, and it gets built in so many years, and there's a big project team, and they're like, oh yeah, tell us what the lights should be. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell you what the lights should be, but I don't really like that. I want to be involved, and that it's personal, that it's a personal connection. So those are the projects I like. And then it doesn't matter how big or how small they are. It's just where you can get that going is really the thing I like best. I'm personally very interested in urban lighting, so street lighting, tunnel lighting, that kind of thing, because you have to engage with it. It's not a choice. And at night you go out, and the only lighting there is that kind of lighting. And I think most of it is so bad, and the whole approach is so, it's not a design approach, it's just a technical approach. And I have this bee in my bonnet about it, that it could be done completely differently and much better. But to actually get into that world is very difficult, and they're just not open to looking at it from a design perspective. We're lighting for people, and we as people have our senses with which we communicate to the world. And our eyes are just so, they give us so much information, and our eyes are all about light. So everything we see is, and that information, it's such an important sense. and you can do so much with it. So you can, in manipulating light and using light, you can really help support the senses. So using light, to be able to do a task properly, to feel good, like the right kind of light, to find your way, like having light as wayfinding, as creating atmosphere, as, like, when I talk to architects, I always say that light is architecture. So basically lighting design. And if you talk to architects about daylight, they will say daylight is really important, but they don't necessarily take it all the way, and they can do so much more. And a lot of them are also afraid of what, or bump up to their limits. And so people understand that light is important, but they don't understand how you can really enhance it and really put it into good use. And I think that's where the lighting designer comes in. And in Holland, you get it's always that thing where you get the electrical engineer, and because lights have a plug on them, they think they're going to do the lighting, and that's one of the things I really don't agree with. Like a washing machine has a plug on it as well, but the electrical engineers aren't designing what kind of washing machine you should put in your building. So I understand why they do. Don't get me wrong, but it's, to me, thinking about light and what light does is a very, very different thing to thinking about electricity. And on the other hand, you get the architects, and they think about space, and they also think about light. But very often when they start thinking about electric light, they start thinking about pretty shapes, and it's got to be this trimless fixture, it's got to have that color, but they don't really understand what the effect is of the light, or what the light can actually do. And that's the lighting designer. The lighting designer, to me, is talking about the medium light, and that has to be, that comes in through a window or it comes out of a fixture. So you need to determine those, but it's that the invisible bit, that's the bit that I like and what we should be talking about. Yeah, I guess there are some things happening now, or have already been talked about a lot, so like the human-centric lighting, or integrative lighting, or dynamic lighting, or tunable white, or all these other things. And all lighting is for humans, so in a sense it's like human-centric. It's like, well, what would it be otherwise? But I do like the idea that we're spending so much time indoors. We need people to go outside. I mean, ideally, I'd wish we'd design buildings that people would go outside and actually enjoy the daylight. But if you have spaces where you don't have daylight, or limited daylight, or if you want to enhance daylight, then doing that with dynamic white light is a great way. And I definitely think it's a good development. Other developments which are more on the sort of control interactivity side, like the Internet of Things, and it's actually taking the lighting network and adding lots of other stuff to it, which is not necessarily about light. And I think as lighting designers, we should know what's going on with that. At the same time, I feel that there's already, for me, there's still so little awareness on what light can do, that if we start doing all those other stuff as well, it's just drowning out the importance of the light itself. So, and it's, again, a lot of other companies and disciplines coming in, and they start talking about lighting when they have absolutely no idea what it is. So, and that's why we need to be on the ball with it. But it's not lighting. So it's, and I think also with controls, what's really nice with the controls is that it's becoming so much easier to control light, to change light. And that adds a lot of possibilities in what you can do. And that's great. So I definitely embrace that. Well, I think what I already mentioned about the road and tunnel lighting, if I could change that, that would be really great. And I think it would involve a sort of big investment, a lot of time, and to really get people to think about it from a design point of view, rather than just a sort of technical uniformity candela point of view. And yeah, I still have this dream of like changing the way the world looks at night, by changing the way that's done. But yeah. It was actually, we got the assignment to do some road lighting, like, ooh. I don't think they realised that they were getting a lighting designer. I think they were just asking for some lighting, somebody who could do some calculations. So they got a lighting designer, and we ended up doing a darkness design rather than a lighting design. And I've always really liked that idea of being a darkness designer. Maybe that's sort of my approach for urban lighting, is being a darkness designer. And so we basically went in and we sort of questioned the whole need of actually having lighting on this road. And we just said, well, we're not going to do it. We're going to work with reflectors. We're going to, use those sort of things. And then we are going to do some lighting, but only in places where it's absolutely necessary, where it's going to work to enhance safety, but very much as a wayfinding element, or very much as a sort of trigger that something is happening. So that when there is a turning, there's a light there, not to light the whole space to whatever, but a light to indicate that something is changing and that there is a turning. And whereas a roundabout, there's going to be a light there to show that this is a roundabout, and it's a different kind of fixture because it's a roundabout. So working the sort of fixture typology and the road layout and everything sort of work together. And I still really like that approach. So it's really using the wayfinding, the layout. What do you want to trigger with the lighting? And it also works during the day, because that's the other thing, is that during the day you have all these poles standing everywhere, causing terrible interference with everything else. But if you place them in the right way, and if they're designed in the right way, then they can also add to, making it clearer and easier and better. So that's a project I like. And just the projects where you have fun, like lighting a casino and just putting in anything you want, like all the colored lights and the dynamics and the integrating in things, and just making something look fantastic, that just matches the experience. So I guess for me, it's always trying to find the thing that suits that particular project. And I guess all my projects have something that's like, yeah, that's the thing that's really, that I'd say was really the thing that was nice about it, or that worked. The biggest challenge is, for me, in working in Holland now, is that there's no real lighting design market. So people need light, but they tend to they'll go to a manufacturer, or they'll ask the architect or the electrical engineer or whatever, and okay, there's light, it's fine, there's a switch, light comes on, fine, that's all we need. And actually designing, or even what that is, what is designing lights, like yeah, well, we'll let the architect do that. That light itself needs a design is just not. It's not. There's no awareness for it, and the lighting design that's being done in Holland is very small. It's a very small discipline, and looking at other countries, and also the potential of the discipline, because it's just amazing material, amazing medium to work with, and it does so much for how you experience space, etc. That I think it just needs a lot more. Yeah, we just need more lighting design, and I think there's a potential for it. But how do we get that bigger? So the challenge I see for me is making that pie bigger. So getting that more awareness for lighting design, more lighting design projects, then more lighting designers, and really building this discipline. And to start that, or to get that sort of ball rolling. And well, I guess the first one would be Sally Story, because that's sort of the first lighting designer I kind of met, and that she's a woman. She had got her own company, successful, built up, and also very much writing books and talking about it, and really bringing it across. So also just trying to spread the word. I think that's something that I remembered, and just, yeah, I had a really good time working there as well. And I guess also Florence Lamb, as a woman who is been an Arab for a long time, but also, if you think about Arab, most of Arab is still sort of male white civil engineers. And then you get Florence Lamb, and she's a fellow, and has been doing the lighting design, and I think that's an achievement to do that in Arab. So that's great. Then in Holland, I've been in the Arab office in Amsterdam for now, just over 12 years. When I started here, there was a colleague, she's still here now, Sheila Sankram, and I think what I really admire with her is that she has this sort of relentless pursuit of quality and will not rest till that contractor gets the right fixture, does the mock-up, and we test it again, and it has to just be really, really good. And I think that's an inspiration, because I also have to say, okay, well, that it's good enough. Do we need to keep fighting? That it's already so much better than it could. Maybe it can be even better. And she's the one who will just try and go for even better. Yeah, I'm just really, really happy that I work with light. I just think it's magic. Even here, there's the sun shines through, and then then you get the rainbow, because there's two pieces of glass. Like, oh, there's a rainbow on the wall. Just anything. Oh, the sun's shining. Oh, that's just like, very much the sort of the sun, the day, the nature, the light, the patterns, light through the leaves. Oh, the other day I was taking pictures in the corridor because the sun was shining through really low and creating these nice patterns, and I was like, okay, yeah. It just inspires me. I guess you see it in most professions. You still have it that even if there's a 50-50 male-female, that there will be less women in leadership than men. So it's not just the lighting design profession. I think it's something that you see across all professions. And I think that on the one hand, there's a thing where I think if you want women to be in leadership, you have to ask them. So that they're just less likely to step forward and say, I'll take the job, which a man would be more inclined to do. So I think if you want women to be in leadership, you have to ask them. You have to just say, I want you to be in leadership. I'm just offering you this opportunity, and I want you to take it. They need to be told that they can do it. Even if whereas a man will just think he can do it. I don't know. Maybe that's being too generalist, but I can see that is something that if we're thinking about wanting women in leadership, that you have to ask them and you have to see them, and there's still a lot of unconscious bias as well about leadership. I would just go for it. I think lighting is fantastic. It's just the most great field to work in, and I think the more people we get doing it, the bigger it'll become, and the more we can do, and the more beautiful the world will be.